Firefly is a really interesting character because he brings a different, I guess, a different type of action to the game primarily. We were attracted to him because he suggests a certain type of gameplay with him. So he's really defined by his equipment in a lot of ways. He's a guy with a jetpack and a flamethrower. There's not a lot of guys with that particular combination of gear. And so he's also, thankfully, a pyromaniac, a guy who likes to watch things burn and be destroyed. So that let us create something of a big Michael Bay type scenario. We've got the whole location that we're showing here at Gamescom is the Pioneer Bridge, which is basically being held by Firefly and these guys he's hired. He's planted a number of bombs across the bridge. The police have formed a perimeter around the outside of it. Batman's broken through the police perimeter and now is working to close down Firefly's bombs. But what Firefly wanted is he wanted Batman to come to the bridge. He's done this whole setup to draw out the Batman because he wants to kill him for the bounty that's on his head. But what we get as a result of that is we get Batman doing a very sneaky thing, trying to get past the police, not getting on with Captain James Gordon, who's currently running the security for the perimeter. Both of them have different ideas as to how this Firefly problem should be contained. They're not working together as we know they later in their careers. So we get to have personal friction, we get to have this great action scenario, and we get to have this amazing boss game with this really over-the-top, amazing technological creation that is Firefly in his suit. We're very inspired by what happened with Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze uses the core mechanics of the game, right? Like, if you're playing the game, playing the Predator gameplay where you're sneaking up behind guys and taking them down, you might have used just a couple of the techniques before you get to Mr. Freeze in Arkham City, but then when you get there, suddenly there's this exam where it's like, okay, do you know everything? Do you remember everything you were taught? And it's kind of a hair-raising experience playing that and realizing, oh man, I haven't studied for this exam. You've got a couple of the techniques probably, and everyone learns a couple of different ones and favors them. But suddenly when you're playing Mr. Freeze, you have to use your whole set of skills built around Predator. Well, what we want to do for our bosses in the game was really to expand on that feeling of using core abilities, core gadgets, core free flow, core Predator, and have different bosses which kind of explore how you could use other mechanics but inspired by the way Mr. Freeze felt. The way we iterated on the combat system was really to grow on that really solid core that was there in the previous games. And rather than kind of drill out holes of that core and start changing things, is more to build on top of that. So we've added characters like the martial artist, who's a character who can fight a little bit like Batman. If you played Batman, Arkham Asylum or Arkham City, you'll know that one of the things that really defines the fighting is Batman countering. So he can strike a couple of enemies, someone takes a swing at him, he counters that guy and either at least pushes him back, and if he's in a combo, he'll actually take that guy down to the floor with that counter move. Well, these guys can play the game kind of like Batman, and that they can counter Batman's moves, but because Batman's a master martial artist, he can counter their counters. So we want to have guys, the spirit of that, building on top of that core of guys taking a swing at you in the Arkham games, is to have one guy in there who's got a special weapon or a special ability. It's someone you've got to watch beyond just the regular guys. It could be a guy going for a gun, it could be a guy with a knife who's going to come in with a special attack. So the characters we've added, the kind of archetypes we've added in Arkham Origins, are someone else you have to watch for a different reason in that group. It may be because he's helping other guys in the group, maybe because he's got a special attack, or you have to do special inputs to take him out. So we feel like that's really growing on top of what worked so well in the other games, but also is bringing something very new. It's funny, some people get very hung up on Batman had this gadget here, so why doesn't he have it there? Well, the answer is kind of simple. Batman rotates his gadgets around based on what he needs. So in some stories he'll have one gadget, some stories he'll have another one. He doesn't always have everything he's ever had in his pockets at any one particular time. In terms of how we approach the gadgets, I guess when I think about that, there's always kind of a reciprocal character type we've added, or a scenario type, with the gadget that we wanted to build. So, for example, the remote claw is something we've demoed before. So we build scenarios where you can use that, and in some cases you actually need to use it to get through the scenario, because we knew we want to create a type of encounter, a type of room, or a way of navigating that the player would need this ability to deal with it. So he gets a sense of mastery, he builds up his experience, he becomes better and better with the gadget, and eventually we get these kind of masterclass rooms, which might be a really tough Predator room or a particularly tough fight, where if you haven't practiced with the gadget so far, you might struggle a little bit. But when you get to this room, if you've practiced well with it, you'll ace it. I think with Arkham Origins, you're going to see more of the DC universe than you've ever seen before. I think there'll be both minor notes and major notes that you're going to see in the game which you haven't had revealed so far. And who knows what the future holds.